Welcome back to my channel. This time we will be talking about the pairings for the European Team Championships for 9th Age. They're going to be held in Amsterdam this year. It's one of the biggest events yearly for 9th Age. In fact, it is, I think, the biggest. And there will be international teams composed of 8 players per country. And then, well, basically the teams themselves, they get matched up against each other, and then they have to figure out how the pairing is going to look like. So what most teams do beforehand is that they make a pairing sheet. An example you can see here in the Excel file that I'm showing you. And it basically indicates the confidence you have in different matchups. So here on the left side we have one of the teams with just random letters A until H. And then we have here the other team with numerals 1 to 8. Basically, this means that player 1 from this team has the confidence that he will be playing quite a good match against player C from the other team. Likewise, the S's are bad pairs matchups and N's are kind of neutral. So normally what that would mean is that a neutral matchup gives you a 10-10 or a 8-12 up to a 12-8. Good matchup would range from a 13-7 to a 20-0, and a bad matchup from a 7 to 0 points for your own team. And then with the pluses and the minuses, this is, I don't know if it's all the nationalities that use the same system, but for us, we mostly use the pluses and the minuses to give some further indications on how confident you are in the matchup. So, for example, a G++ would be like 18 points. If you play the match like 10 times, then 9 out of 10 times you will get the 18 points. So that is quite a good matchup for you. Whereas S minus minus would be like 2 points or around that area. Yeah, so that is how the estimations work basically. So everybody fills this in for the entirety of the team setup at the ETC. That's a lot of work because there's like 200 lists or something. You have to go through each of them, give them a score. You can also do it a bit less detailed than at the ETC itself. Once you know which team you're going to play against, you can go into a more detailed pairing. On the other hand, if you have the time in advance, then it's quite nice to do this. Now, how is this going to affect everything? I made a small video to explain how that works. So we will have both teams. We have team A in the top and we have team B in the bottom. Team A with the letters, team B with the numerals. Then each of the teams are going to select one of their armies to propose as a match to be played. So for example, team A can propose army number A. Normally this would be done blind. Just for this video I have it open at all times. So the army that Team A proposes gets countered by 2 armies from Team B, and likewise Team B does the same with proposing an army, getting 2 counters. And then Team A can decide which of the 2 armies is going to play against the army that they proposed first. So that is how the matchup A against 5 gets to come into existence. Team B does the same with their matchup, so they select D, for example, against army number 6. Then you do this again, so Team A once again sends forth an army, which is going to be Army C. Team B sends their Army 8 and gets countered by EG, and C gets countered by 1 and 2. You just continue this process once again. So in this way, you have some armies that also return to the pool of the teams that are playing. Then for the final time, you once again do this, but this time it's going to be a little bit different because you will have 2 armies left over. In this case, it's going to be Army B and Army 3. So these armies already get their spot in the pairing lineup basically. And then for Team A, for G, it can decide between 4 and 7. The one that it doesn't choose will match up with the army that it had left behind. And for Team B the same. They had Army 1 against F and H, and then it gets paired up, as you can see in this end result. I also put in these entries into the table that we had before, and then you can see that with the matchups that we had, we go to this overview, and then if you add up all the results that would follow from these pairings, then you get to a total of 84 points for the round. In an entire round, you play 8 games, so 8 times 20 is 160 points that you could distribute over the two teams. 84 is above average, so this would be considered a win. But then again, the wins in team tournaments are a bit different than for singles tournaments. Usually for singles tournaments, you want to go 20-0 for 4 or 5 rounds in order to win the tournament. For a team tournament, they also have a system where results are being capped. So the cap in ETC at ETC is 100 points. So maximum you can get per round is 100 points. So what usually happens is that, or what sometimes happens is that good, well-performing teams take some armies with them that can really score the 20 points in good pairings, and then the rest of the lists are geared towards taking 10 points. Because in that case, if you get like 20 points twice and you get 10 points for the rest, then you will get to these 100 points. So then basically you only have to do, well, you only have to do 2 matches where you do quite good, and then the rest just has to perform stable. You can even have some small losses with like a 5 and a 15 in there. But if you do manage to get your 2 pairings where you need them to go and the rest just perform stable, then you will get to these 100 points. The reason why they keep the 100 points mostly is that if you have a very good team playing against a not so good team and you do get the full points, then you will get the 160. And that will affect quite strongly the overall ranking, meaning that other teams can't really catch up anymore with the winning teams. So to keep it interesting for the full duration of the tournament, and not having a clear winner already after day 1, they do use this cap system. Whether it's the best solution or not, well, opinions are always different for different players. I think it's a decent solution to keep it interesting for most of the teams anyway. And it's about having fun together anyway. So I think it's a good solution to make sure that the tournament stays interesting for most of the people involved. If you want to, you can also try to get the best pairing out of this pairing sheet as an exercise. It's quite tricky to make the perfect pairing happen, especially since the easiest way to try to figure out your best pairing, try to figure out which army to play first, is to think that your opponent's going to have the same sheet as you, but then transposed in the sense that a G is going to be an S for them, and an S is going to be a G for them. But this is not always the case because opinions differ. So what usually ends up being the case is that both teams have an estimation of about 90 to 100 points. And then stuff happens on the tables and it's going to be different. So some estimations are obviously wrong. Some, well, most of the others are going to be right as a consequence. Yeah, and based on that, you will get the results. So yeah, doing the pairing is one aspect. Being very good at estimating your pairing is another aspect that actually takes your team to a higher level, I would say. Because it's way more valuable to have accurate pairing estimations than to have lists that can really overperform sometimes, but generally are not that trustworthy. Yeah, anyway, so if you feel like doing this exercise, trying to get the best pairing out of this sheet, you can do so. You can just make some cards yourself, put the ace and the numbers on the different cards and play around, see how it feels, see how it goes. And I'm excited to hear what the best pairing is you can get out of this sheet. Thank you for watching, and I will see you the next time.